there any button here that switches inputs?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Okay, you'll hear us. You'll hear us speaking. I'm Stevie. I'm not sure which one. Here. Yeah, keep.
All right.
Hi.
It's up there.
I uploaded mine up there too. Okay.
No problem.
Awesome.
They'll call Ken up and he'll make a presentation just like PNZ.
Okay.
And then afterwards they'll call you up and you can make a presentation.
Okay.
The guy up there will control it, so we'll bring it up and get it up here. You just start presenting and then they'll put it on the screen up there
Oh,
for
okay.
you. Okay?
So he knows which one. He'll know to pull up mine down there.
Well, we'll have to do that when you come up.
Okay.
And get it up here and then he'll get it on that screen.
I click through it.
Yeah, you can click through it. Just
Okay.
just hit the forward button and it'll move you through.
Perfect.
All
And
right.
How long do I have? 5 minutes? 3 minutes?
You have as long as you want. I don't think
Okay.
they time you.
Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me. So I'm here to speak against the cell tower.
Uh-huh.
I brought a flash drive with some
Okay.
information.
Yeah. You want to put it on?
Here. Do I need to be sworn in though?
They'll he'll call for public hearing and he'll call anyone that wants to speak to come up and get sworn in. You'll do it at that point. This one. I'm just gonna leave it open and put it down here in the bottom. Okay? And we'll get you set up when you
Yeah.
come up. Okay?
Now, the other question is, my son actually wanted to speak.
I don't believe there's an age limit.
How y'all doing?
Doing good.
Good. But if we want to speak during, with the zoning, we don't have to sign up.
No, this is for after. Got it. I'm imagining that's what he's presented here. He asked me to upload a
Looking for that cell tower thing.
We'll get you going when they call you.
I call this meeting to order on Monday, February the 5th, 2018. I want to welcome everyone. Very glad to have with us tonight Pastor Richard Bush from the Mount Zion First Baptist Church at 1789 Hawthorne Avenue, who will come forward at this time, give us our invocation, and also lead us in the pledge of flag. So would everyone please rise?
Changed.
Good to see you again.
Good evening, Mayor Baker, and to all city officials. Every head bow. Most holy and gracious God, our Father, thou who have been so kind to us, we want to say thank you. We thank you because last night could have been the last, but early this morning you allowed us another chance of mercy. Now, dear God, as we come forth to discuss things concerning the city, God, we ask you to bless that all goes well, that you get the glory. Father God, we ask you to bless each and every individual that have assembled themselves in this room. God, we know that you can and we know that you will because you've done it so many times before. And now, dear God, we just want to say thank you. We give you honor and glory in the precious, prominent, prodigious name of our Lord and Savior. Amen. Thank God. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all.
For those folks that are new in town and looking for a new church to go worship at or looking for a change, I'm sure the folks at Mount Zion First Baptist Church at 1789 Hawthorne Avenue would love to have you. So, agenda changes, we do not have any. Item A under the mayor's report is a proclamation in recognition of Black History Month. I would ask that Council Member Marilyn Blackburn please read that and present that to the appropriate folks. Ms. Blackburn.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to ask the following individuals if you will please stand and come forward. If you are with us, Department Junior Vice Commander Eddie Asbury, Senior Vice Commander Cliff Flanagan, Junior Vice Amos Lewis, Chaplain Reginald Kemp, Sergeant at Arms Willie Arnold, and Past Department of Georgia Commander Randy Goodman. Wonderful. Whereas each year during Black History Month, the city of Smyrna explores the history and culture of Americans, discovering stories of courage and sacrifice. And whereas this year's theme for Black History Month is African Americans in Time of War, and commemorates the centennial of the end of the First World War in 1918. And whereas the theme provides a framework for focusing on the roles of African Americans in every American war, from the Revolutionary War era to that of the present war against terrorism, and whereas more than 3,500 Black Georgians served in the Union Army and Navy between 1862 and 1865, and 17,000 Black Georgians served overseas in World War I, and whereas over 1 million African American men and women served this country during World War II, and 708 died in combat. And whereas over 11,000 African American servicemen and women have given their lives in military service during the Korean War, Vietnam War, Persian Gulf War, and operations in Iraq and Afghanistan, and whereas reflecting on these sacrifices provides the opportunity to examine issues faced by these and other African Americans in times of war. Issues include opportunities for advancement during wartime, the struggle of to integrate the military, and the experiences of veterans once they return home. Now, therefore, I, A. Max Bacon, Mayor of the City of Smyrna, Georgia, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2018 to be Black History Month, and we thank you, gentlemen, for your service.
You guys want to step up here and we get a picture of y'all?
look this way. 1, 2, 3. Or 1, 2, 3.
Before you guys sit down, can we just, will y'all just identify yourself to the microphone and tell us what branch you're in? And I know you're, you're members of the Marietta American Legion somewhere. Look this way. You got a camera here.
Okay.
Yep.
My name is Amos Lewis, and I'm a...
Hold on.
Hey, I was glad to do for my country what I did. If I was asked to do it again and I was 20 years younger, I'd probably say yes. Thank you. Good evening. I'm Reginald Kemp, Marietta, Georgia, born in Ackworth, Georgia, May the 14th, 1931. I'm a member of the American Legion 296, a member of the Liberty Hill Baptist Church, also in the Masonic 46. And I have served in Korea for 3 years active and 5 years standby. Career veterans. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the service.
I'm Cliff Flanagan. I'm the Senior Vice Commander at Post 296 here in Marietta, Georgia. I served in the U.S. Army in Vietnam. Amos, right here is a Purple Heart veteran. This is a Korean veteran, and I'm a Purple Heart veteran also. Thanks for the proclamation.
We thank you for your service. Thank you. And as we continue on with our recognition of Black History Month, it's always a special for us to have the spiritual heirs here. I know they're back in the back somewhere, but y'all want to come forward and they're going to sing a couple of songs for us, I hope. Yes, sir. You're good. You're good. Thank y'all for being here. You're a lucky man to be able to leave. You guys come on up. I see y'all every year, and it's always a big treat for us. But one year y'all had this little bitty guy. I don't know. I don't think it's this one on the front right here, but he's in school. Well, good deal. Good deal. This is a special treat, and they come every year and they sing, and we're always delighted to have y'all come.
We are the Spiritual Heirs of Smyrna, and we've been organized 60 years. We are the oldest black gospel group in Cobb County that I know of. And we were proud to be from Smyrna. My home, born and raised. I introduce to you our leader, Brother Jerry Allen from Smyrna, Georgia. He raised him on here with Jane Minor, Douglasville. He joined us about 25, 30 years ago. And my nephew, Kerry, born and raised right here in Smyrna, and myself, Alvin Betcher. We are the Spiritual Heirs. We had a couple of members that's in the hospital have been sick, but we ask that y'all pray for them and keep them in mind. We're going to do a couple of numbers. First number will be All the Way. We asking God to lead and guide us all the way down through 60 more years of singing God's praise. And we ask that y'all can continue to pray for us to do this in 60 more years.
All the way, all the way, all the way, yeah, all the way. I'm gonna walk and talk with Jesus all the way, all the way, all the way, yeah, all the way, all the way, yes, all the way. I'm gonna walk and talk with Jesus, yeah, all the way, all the way. Oh, by and by, yeah, by and by, by and Well, I once was lost in sin, but my Jesus, he took me on in. You know what it is. He shined a light from heaven on my soul. Yes, he did. But he filled my heart with love, love, love. He wrote my name above. I'm gonna walk and talk with Jesus all the way, all the way, all the way, yeah, all the way, all the way, yeah, all the way. I'm gonna walk and talk with Jesus all the way, all the way, all the way, yeah, all the way. All the way, yeah, all the way. I'm gonna walk and talk with Jesus all the way. I'm gonna walk. I'm gonna talk. I'm gonna tell him I'll make it up. Sometimes tumbling, sometimes falling, sometimes can't see my way clear. But I made it. The reason why I made it, I got my hand in a winding chain. Don't let nothing turn me around. Don't let nothing turn me around. Listen, I'm gonna walk and talk with Jesus, yeah, all the way, yeah, all the way. Amen. For the rest of my life, we're going to walk and talk with Jesus. And while we're walking and talking with him, we need him to guide us. We're on a teacher's journey, y'all. And we need the Lord Jesus to lead us. He ain't going to lead us wrong. As long as we follow him, he will lead us all the way from earth to glory. And that's where we're headed. Lord, while I'm on the Christian journey with you, guide me. Lord, while I'm on this Christian journey, guide me. Lord, while I'm on this Christian journey, guide me. Teach me how to watch, oh Lord, fight and pray, fight and listen. I'm sometimes up, sometimes down. Guide me, guide me. Lord, sometimes up, sometimes down. Guide me, oh Lord. Sometimes up, sometimes down. Guide me, teach me how to, oh Lord. You know, we have to suffer sometimes. God said when I suffered all night long, guide me. Lord, when I suffered all night long, guide me. Lord, and when I suffered all night long, guide me. Teach me how to, oh Lord, you told us to pray always. Lord, teach me how to pray. Right now, teach me how to pray. 24 hours of the day. Teach me how to pray. Told us to always pray. Teach me how to pray. Pray for one another. Teach me how to pray. Pray for our enemies too. Teach me how to pray. In the midnight hour. Teach me how to pray. Early in the morning. Teach me how to pray. When I'm walking alone. Teach me how to pray. When I'm on my job. Teach me how to pray. For my enemies too. Teach me how to pray. Every day of my life. Teach me how to pray. Our Father which art in heaven. heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Lead us not into temptation. Deliver our soul from evil.
Teach me how to pray.
Every day of our life.
Teach me how to pray.
Lord, I want you to teach me how to watch.
Fight and pray.
Oh,
Fight and pray.
Thank y'all very much. I think y'all get better every year. May not get prettier, but you're getting better. Item C, 2018-45 is a character education presentation by the Smyrna Elementary School. Brett Ward, where's Brett at? Brett or his, I know we got Beth Parker and Laquita Harmon here, I think. And the kids, Mackenzie Brown, Jacqueline Newsom, Mark Colin, and Becky Connor. How'd I do? And this is the 7 Habits of Leader in Me. 7 Habits of the Leader in Me. Where's Brett Ward at? You're kidding. Oh, you ought not be here, because I'll say something about him.
No.
Thank y'all for being here, though. Do you want to introduce the kids? Oh, good deal. If there's any other parent that'd like to take a picture, or if y'all want to get back behind me, come on. I love cameras. I'm going to give this seat. Well, hey, look.
I don't see that big step up.
See if that little girl wants to sit here.
Can I sit up here?
You sit there? Yeah. Don't get any ideas.
My name is Beth Parker, and I'm a school counselor at Smyrna Elementary School. We are excited to be here tonight to talk about our Leader in Me program, as well as our Student Council and Beta Club. Our Student Council representatives and Beta Club members facilitate community service projects all year long. This year we hosted a canned food drive for Must Ministries during the holiday months. We have also hosted a drive for necessity items such as toilet paper and toothpaste and toothbrushes for Must Ministries. Some of our Student Council representatives and Beta Club members are here tonight to talk to you about our Leader in Me program. Tonight we'll give you a brief overview of the program, and then each representative will explain each of the 7 habits that we strive to instill in our students at Smyrna Elementary School.
Hi, my name is Mackenzie Brown and I'm in 5th grade. The Leader in Me is designed to help teachers develop leadership skills in their students, help students discover their unique strengths, and gives all students an opportunity to shine, to become leaders. Habit 1, be proactive. I am a responsible person. I am motivated. I choose my own actions, attitudes, and moods. I do not blame others for my mistakes. I do the right thing even without being asked, even when no one is looking.
Hi, my name is Mark Collin. This is habit 2, begin with the end in mind. I plan ahead and set goals. I am prepared at all times. I think about my choices will affect my future. I think about the positive or negative consequences of my actions before I act. Habit 3, put first things first. I spend time on things that are most important. I do things that I have to do before things I want to do. This means I say no to things I know I should not do. I stay focused on what I'm doing. I try to minimize distractions and regroup if I get off task.
Hi, I am Beck Connor, and this is Habit 4, Sync Win Win. I am a problem solver when an issue comes up. I think about what other people want and not just what I want. And I try to find a solution that is fair for everyone. This is Habit 5, seek first to understand and to be understood. I listen to other people's ideas and feelings. I try to see things from their viewpoint. I listen to others without interrupting. I listen with my ears, my eyes, and my heart. I am confident in voicing my ideas.
Hi, my name is Jalen Newsom, and I am in the 5th grade. Habit 6, synergize. I get along with other people and work well in groups. I value the strengths of others and allow myself to learn from them. I know that by working together as a team, we can get more done. We can find better solutions. And this is the final habit, Habit 7, sharpen the saw. I take care of my body by eating right, exercising, and getting enough sleep. I learn in lots of places, not just at school. I spend time with family and friends. I find meaningful ways to help people. I take care of my mind, my body, and my heart.
And then to wrap this all up, here's a quote from Sean Covey about the Leader in Me program. Ask any successful person, and most will tell you that they had a person who believed in them. A teacher, a friend, a parent, a guardian, a sister, a grandmother. It only takes one person. Thank you so much for having us tonight.
This is the first time that we've had the elementary schools and the middle schools come back. We used to do this a good bit. We'd recognize the character or education award of the month, and so we look forward to other schools coming back. But that was Smyrna Elementary. Item D is presentation of the Keep Smyrna Beautiful Awards, introduction of Keep Smyrna Beautiful board members. We are ready. When you're ready.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here tonight. For those of you that haven't met me, I'm Janet Liberman. I'm the Executive Director of Keep Smyrna Beautiful. I'm very happy to be here. I want to introduce the board members that are with me tonight. Liz Davis is our chairperson. Phyllis Owens is our secretary. Lisa Castleberry and Betty Williams. And I'm going to turn it over to Liz now.
Well, wait a minute, I want this one first. This was the big one. This is the first place award from Keep America Beautiful in the category 30,001 to 100,000. And I have to just kind of say, we've won this award several times. And I think they created a new category to kind of hold us at bay, but it didn't work. We also won a first place affiliate award from Keep America Beautiful. And last but not least, we won a first place award from the state of Georgia. I think this is our 20th award, first place award from them. And we have a wonderful board, and thank you all for your wonderful appointees. We are a working board, and we appreciate your help and all your support. Thank you.
Tammy, Scott, y'all want to say anything? Scott? Okay, yeah. You're a smart man not to mess it up. We are very fortunate to have the leadership from the city administrator all the way down and have such great board members. We have learned, I believe, in the time that I've been here, it's sort of let y'all do your thing, us stay out of it, just give you the funding that you need, and you get the support from the community, and that's the reason why we have received so many of these awards, is not because of us, but because of the dedication and the service from our citizens. So thank y'all very much for that. Item 4 is land issue zonings and annexation, A 2017-362. It's a public hearing zoning request Z17-019, special land use permit for the installation of a cell tower, 2.8 acres, land lot 634, 1700 Roswell Street, Verizon Wireless. Ms. Tammy Sadler-Jones, the background, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Verizon Wireless is requesting a special land use permit to install a new telecommunications monopole on the public storage site at 1700 Roswell Street. The proposed monopole will be 130 feet tall with a 10-foot lightning rod for a total height of 140 feet. A special land use permit request was heard by the Planning and Zoning Board at the November 13th, 2017 meeting and was recommended for approval by a vote of 6-0. Community Development recommends approval of the proposed special land use permit for Verizon Wireless Telecommunication Tower with conditions. Our community development staff are here in case you have additional questions.
This is first of all, is the applicant here? Okay. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here that's in opposition to or that would like to make any public comment concerning the special use permit for this location? For anyone that wants to speak, you need to be sworn in. So if you'll please step forward. And even if you end up not wanting to speak, I want to get everybody sworn in all at one time. So please come up and be sworn in. Even if you end up not wanting to speak, you don't have to speak, but I want to get you sworn in. Okay, if y'all will have a seat. This is in Miss Marilyn Blackburn's district. Miss Blackburn, I'm sure you'll want to thank y'all so much. You want Mr. Sudworth to make his presentation?
Yes,
Sudworth?
please, Mrs. Sudworth, would you come forward?
Thank you, guys. Thank y'all. Give these guys a big hand for their leave.
Thank you all. As has been stated, we do have a request for a monopole, a cell tower, 130 feet plus a 10-foot antenna. It has gone through the process. It is from Verizon Wireless, and here in Smyrna, the way that we handle these kind of requests is through a special land use permit, meaning that the zoning doesn't change, it's just another use that would be added to a particular site. It would become conditional on that, but it has to get approval from mayor and council going through the planning commission. What's up on the screen now is a zoning map showing where the site is located. It is outlined in a blue line indicated with the subject property. That site currently has a self-storage facility on it. This is the future development map. It would not affect any changes on that. As I had said, Verizon is requesting to install a new telecommunication monopole on the public storage site. It will be 130 feet with a 10-foot lightning rod antenna on that, which does require the special land use. In addition, it is located on property that is already shown as a storage unit, but it's owned by Storage Equities, also known as Public Storage. The location was selected according to the applicant Verizon based on their engineering studies to enhance coverage in that particular area and to give relief to some of their other sites so that the traffic is more balanced out. Our ordinance also requires certain setbacks, and where they are proposing would require 2 waivers from our ordinance. One would be a 1-foot waiver of from 30 feet to 29 feet. The other would be on a fall zone. It has to be equal to the height of the tower. In this case, the antenna does not count, so it would be 130-foot setback to the nearest residential structure. They're asking for 100 feet, which would be a 30-foot waiver of that requirement due to another structure, which I'll show you on our maps here shortly. This is the proposed site plan. The location of this tower is on the Roswell side of the site. The site actually has 2 street frontages, one on Hawthorne Avenue, and it runs through to Roswell Street. This will be located on the on the Hawthorne side of the property. If you are coming from that 5 Points intersection of Roswell and Hawthorne, it would, and you're coming down Hawthorne, it would be the second building on your left as you go by. What's outlined in red is the proposed location, as I had indicated, it being the second building in, and the variances, both of which the staff and the Planning Commission supported, of a rear setback of from 30 feet to 29 feet, as well as the fall zone reduction from 130 to 100 feet. These are proposed views of the monopole that has been superimposed. The photos that are on your left of the screen are showing sort of in the distance over the top of the buildings where they are. That is from the south of the site in the warehouse facility. The other view is from the west side. Again, same site, you've got the north side and then the east side. This is a view from Hawthorne Avenue. And then pictures of the subject properties. We had said it's a storage facility complex. Pictures of adjacent property, or properties, I should say. Now, both the Planning Commission and the staff recommended approval of this request, as Ms. Sandler Jones had mentioned earlier. The conditions are 3, and it's shown there that it needs to be in substantial compliance with the site plan, that all wiring infrastructure access that's needed for that access come from Roswell Street. Public Works must review all of those utility permits, and that the applicant shall provide street trees and landscaping along the Hawthorne side where the tower actually is for the length of that property and in accordance with our tree plan. With that in mind, I will leave you with the proposed site plan. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Sudworth? Thank you. Is the applicant, if you'll step forward.
Good evening. My name is Jenna Lee with Troutman Sanders, and I am here as the applicant on behalf of Verizon Wireless. I also have Wendy Doyle with Verizon here in case you guys have any questions about the site's history and the need for the tower in this location. If you don't mind, I'm going to take you through some slides quickly that give an overview of the need for the tower in this location and some of the capacity and coverage issues that Mr. Sedgwick mentioned in his presentation, and also a short overview of a couple of the alternative sites that we've looked at. As you know, this application has been tabled a few times, and we've been working closely with Ms. Blackburn to go through the alternatives and how this site was arrived upon by Verizon as the best possible location for the tower in this area, which I'll show you.
Excuse me, do we
Sure.
have hard copies of your presentation?
I can pass those out. I have hard copies.
Okay.
Just one moment. I'll give you a minute for those to get around so you can walk through it as I do.
Thank you.
Does everybody have one in hand? Okay, great. So just as a background, we always stress that the demand for wireless services and facilities is ever increasing. All of us rely on cell phones and wireless communications for our everyday needs, emails, phone calls. More and more households and individuals are relying on cell phones for emergency phone calls and communications. Businesses are relying on cell phones and wireless data for their operations day to day. And this increasing need is something that Verizon is constantly monitoring and responding to. And as we go through these slides, I'll show you that particularly in more developed areas like the city of Smyrna and these commercial corridors and neighborhoods in particular, it becomes a more complicated process to identify ideal locations for new towers and facilities that meet the needs, the increasing needs of residents and businesses in the community. So I won't labor the overview of the proposed tower itself, but as Mr. Sedgwick mentioned, it's a monopole, and the total tower height is 140 feet, including the lightning rod antenna at the top. The 140-foot tower will allow Verizon to place its antennas at 130 feet, which is the absolute minimum needed to provide the service improvements needed in this area. And again, we're requesting a special land use permit with two small variances to reduce the setback requirements. One, the setback to the Hawthorne Avenue property line, and one to the closest off-site structure from 130 feet to 100 feet. And that one is it is not a residential structure, I believe. I just wanted to clarify that it's a commercial structure that we're reducing that setback to, not a residential structure. So as I mentioned, this site, we've been working with the city for a long time in trying to identify the best possible site for this tower to meet the improvement needs. And we've tabled this application a few times, and we've been working with Ms. Blackburn and also the previous Ward 3 council person to engage the community and make sure neighbors, residential neighbors and business neighbors understood the need and how this location was arrived at by Verizon. And so, as I mentioned, I'll walk you through the need for the tower and also look at a couple of alternatives that we evaluated as part of this process. So this map, if you're following along with me, shows Verizon's search area. So the first step in any site acquisition process for a new tower is to obviously identify the place of greatest need. And in this case, you'll see that as we go forward that Verizon's radio frequency engineers determined that this area, this part of the city, was in great need of service improvements. And The corridors, the commercial corridors that are at the heart of this search area are the Roswell Street and Hawthorne Avenue, as well as the residential neighborhoods that are in this general vicinity. Again, this is the site plan. I won't go over too much more of this. You already saw this one. This shows the placement of the tower along the southern boundary of this public storage property along Hawthorne Avenue. And directly across the street are the warehousing uses. This slide shows Verizon's existing towers that are located in this general area. This will be important as we move forward to show, in particular, the capacity issues that we're trying to offload here to increase the network performance for Verizon and all of its sites within the network. Going back to this one, well, this slide shows it. Actually, the closest existing tower is an ATC tower that's located just outside of the search area. And we'll show some slides. You know, Verizon always would prefer to co-locate antennas on an existing tower rather than build a new tower. It's more economically efficient and benefits everyone in the long run. But in this case, as I'll show you, this existing ATC tower is too far west from our identified search area and the targeted improvement communities and corridors. So this is a simple map that shows the LTE coverage in this area without the proposed tower. And if you notice the key on this map, the green and the blue show the areas with the greatest need. Red indicates the best performance, meaning that if you're inside of a building, you're likely to be able to receive a call, hold a call, download, use data with your phone, with your wireless device. The areas of green and blue are those areas where you will often have slow data speeds, dropped calls, not be able to place calls or receive calls. And so as you'll see, the greatest concentrations in this search area are along Hawthorne, Roswell Street, and these residential communities within the search area. So moving on, this slide shows the proposed coverage improvements at the public storage site if Verizon were to build the antenna at 110 feet instead of 130 feet. This slide is compared to the next slide, which shows 130 feet. It's really nuanced. You have to pay close attention to the details to see how the higher coverage yields better in-building and in-car coverage in the targeted areas. And so that's very subtle, but these are the kind of details that Verizon's engineers are carefully evaluating to determine the exact height that's required to meet the coverage improvements for the targeted area. So moving on, the next slides show the capacity issues. So typically, if improving wireless service has two primary components, coverage and then capacity. And capacity becomes a greater issue in more heavily developed areas where you have multiple towers that are working together to create Verizon's network. And in this case, these existing towers are currently operating at capacity, particularly the tower called Verizon's Promenade Tower, which is located east of the proposed site. And it's shown, the signal here is shown in red on this map. So when the demand exceeds capacity, you end up having dropped calls, slower data speeds throughout the network. And so by adding a new tower, a new point of service, we will offload that capacity of the Promenade site and also Verizon's surrounding towers that are located in this general area. So you'll see on this map that the new tower at the public storage location offloads all of the other surrounding towers. So not only do we get significant improvement in this specific part of the city of Smyrna, but all of the surrounding towers are relieved, and also thereby their service improves as well. Okay, this slide shows the closest tower I mentioned, the ATC tower that's located west of our proposed site. These next couple of slides just show the lack of improvement if Verizon were to co-locate antennas on that existing tower. So as you'll see here, this one shows antennas located at 120 feet on that existing tower. And you'll see that that shifts all of that red improvement west, and the green and the blue within our targeted area stays the same. So this doesn't, co-locating on that tower would do very little to actually improve the service needs in this area along Hawthorne and Roswell. The same is true for capacity. This slide demonstrates that if we co-located antennas at 128 feet, that we would shift the capacity offload too far west to have any meaningful impact on the promenade site. It's additionally, it shifts it too close to Verizon's Hickory Hill site, which is located to the west, and you see that there would simply be capacity overlap. So we would have essentially a redundancy in the network where both of these towers are serving the same area unnecessarily. These slides also evaluate co-location on that existing tower. You'll see instead of at 128 feet, this shows antennas at 170 feet. And we have the same issue, even though we've increased the tower height significantly within our search area, we still have the same green and blue poor coverage areas throughout the neighborhood and commercial corridors. So very little improvement would be seen on that existing tower. Again, bear with me. Here's another slide showing capacity at 170 feet on that existing tower would do very little to offload capacity from the existing towers that need it most, which are the Promenade Tower in particular to the east. Okay, so this slide shows an alternative site that we have evaluated a couple of times. This is the Windy Hill Community Center site, which I believe is actually owned by Cobb County. And you know, we were looking for sites within the search area that maybe had fewer site constraints and issues. And so we reviewed this one, and there were a number of issues with the site that we'll walk through. I should say, too, that one of the largest constraints, aside from just being a heavily developed area and part of the city, we're also very close to Dobbins Air Force Base, and it's located just north of our search area. And Dobbins, as you would expect, that poses a serious height constraint on any towers that are going to be located in the city of Smyrna and anywhere surrounding Dobbins Air Force Base. And so one of the biggest challenges is locating a site that allows Verizon to meet the FAA's height restrictions in this area, but that is also tall enough to allow us to get the service improvements that we need in the area. So as we evaluated the community center site, which is located northeast of the proposed public storage site, we essentially, that pushes the tower even closer to Dobbins Air Force Base. That property is also 70 feet lower in elevation than the public storage location. So essentially what we've done is you move the tower further away from the search area, you have an elevation deficit already, and you're closer to the Air Force Base. There, essentially, Verizon's engineers evaluated it and determined a much taller tower would have to be required, one that wouldn't be approved by FAA, and likely couldn't meet the setback requirements or any regulatory requirements on the site. So these slides are prepared by Verizon's engineers just to show at the community center location on Windy Hill, the Windy Hill Community Center, you'll see in Verizon's target area, everything basically stays blue and green. So very little coverage improvement is gained by locating a new tower at the community center. So again, we we understand that this is a challenging location to place a tower, and Verizon has worked very hard to evaluate all the alternatives and believes that this is the most appropriate place from a land use perspective, and given all the other criteria that we've evaluated to balance the site constraints, the constraints due to the Air Force Base, and we respectfully request that you approve our application. And Ms. Doyle and I are here, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have about the specifics.
I've basically got two questions. One is, what led you to the county community center? Why did you?
Well, we looked at that one several times. So initially, I should back farther up. As part of the site acquisition process, our site acquisition specialists, travel around and take a really deep dive and close look at the communities. And so this property was identified as a possibility, and I believe that our site acquisition specialist reached out to the community center staff, and they initially were not interested in a tower on the county property. Next, we had a community meeting that the prior Ward 3 councilperson organized, and at that meeting, a lot of people said, what about the community center since it's a bigger property? And so we evaluated the site at that time too, but we did not have the engineers prepare any maps or do any analysis. Okay. We just, said the elevation's a challenge, it's closer to Dobbins Air Force Base, that's a challenge. And then we worked with Ms. Blackburn, and again, we said, let's look at it again and let's really do the analysis to confirm what the engineers' instincts were, that this site was too far away and the needed tower height wasn't available there to meet the needs. So that's what led us there, several paths.
And my second question is, it might be in the data that you just gave us, but there's an existing tower off Hawthorne in a cemetery. Have you looked at that? Because there's already a tower there. Seems like that'd be the most logical place to put it.
Do you mind if Ms. Doyle comes up? And
has she been sworn? Were you sworn in?
You have looked at it.
Pardon me? Okay, hold on.
I just want to confirm that it is the ATC tower, if that's it.
It is the ATC tower. The tower does currently have other tenants on there. The height would have to be increased on that tower, and the FAA will not allow that to happen because of the location of the tower.
So that location is closer to Dobbins, and in order for Verizon's antennas to be mounted there, we would have to increase the tower height.
Okay.
Do I need to be sworn in?
Scott, yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah. Please, just come forward. I'll get Scott to swear you. And if we can just let the people who are speaking, I can't hear if somebody else in the audience is talking, so please be courteous of the folks and let them, I don't know if some getting older, but I can't hear 2 or 3 people talking, so go ahead.
I'll add to that for every application we submit for a permit or zoning approval for a new tower, we obtain from the FAA what's called a site-safe, no-hazard determination. And so as part of that process, the FAA will provide to Verizon, this is the maximum height that you can place in this area, and that can get very specific to a specific parcel or to a general vicinity. And in this case, 140 feet is the height maximum the FAA will allow. And so, again, the existing tower that you've mentioned on Hawthorne, we would have to come to you and ask for a permit to increase that tower height. But our challenge there is not only a significant tower height increase, but also the FAA just simply can't approve it because of the runway.
You were sworn in. You want to say anything now?
Ms. Lee actually covered it. I was just going to explain a little bit that when we initially, what happens is Verizon gets enough complaints about an area Then the engineers look at all the complaints. They come up with a design. They say, we've got to fix this. There's obviously some problems out there. Some people's phones are going to work great, and I'm so glad because that means that we're doing our job to keep your phones working. But there's enough complaints to create a problem, to create the engineers to have to look at the need. They've done that in this area. Like Ms. Lee said, we always look at existing, rooftops, anything that we can attach our antennas to before we build a tower. That's the last resort. Quite honestly, it's the greater expense for Verizon, and it takes longer. You have to go through public hearings like this, and that can be time-consuming versus attaching to an existing structure. We did look at that ATC tower. I've been out there 2 or 3 times, actually, to look at it, spoke with the representatives from American Tower, work with them all the time. They did tell us, they said, Wendy, we're excited that you want it, but guess what? You're probably 3 or 4th in line to this one. The better spots have already been taken. We can offer you this height, which, according to the engineers, wouldn't do any good. It's too low. So then we decided we would have to increase the tower height, and we checked into that. The FAA would not allow us to increase it, the additional height that we needed. So we were back to having to look to properties that we could actually
Just
do.
curious, how much would you have to increase the height of that tower?
Usually, in most cases, sometimes 10 to 20 feet. It's not really that much.
Yeah.
In most cases, because we would have to go to American Tower to make sure that an extension could be built on a monopole, because in some cases, the poles aren't equipped to handle that. Other types of towers are. Most of the time, monopoles are, though, and so that's why we went to them as a first choice to see if that was a possibility.
So currently in the area, do y'all have a tower that's as Verizon on the tower?
Sir, we have 4, as Ms. Lee had shown on one of the maps.
Right.
There are several strategic sites that we have around here. And what's going on is all these sites that we currently have, they are at their maximum peak right now with putting out, they're trying as much as they can to handle the capacity of people's phone calls, texting, streaming, looking at videos, just everything that you use your phone for, especially these smartphones that are coming out now that are virtually computers that do everything. The more people use them, the more technology they have, the more bells and whistles they do, the more it eats up these poor towers that are already set up around here, that you can make your phone call. That's great. But if you try to do these other things, those towers are they're just at capacity. They just need help. Okay. And the map showed that this area, and apparently customers have complained as well, that there's just problems. They might drop a call, or they're trying to do this and their phone won't let them do this, or they can't download this fast enough, or they're just having capacity issues, and that's the need for something in this area. We also worked with Ms. Blackburn. She had a question about, different alternatives for antennas or different approaches. As unfortunately, what we need in this area is something tall enough to reach and talk to those other cell towers to help offload what's going on. And as your community grows in this area, it's only going to be more of a demand and more of a problem.
So my last question, I think, is this, is that if we would approve this site, how long would it be before you'd be back asking for approval of another site? Because we got more people using Verizon. I mean,
It's impossible to say. As
Yeah.
that slide at the very beginning, every year quarterly actually, we update that slide, which just gives statistics on how we're increasingly relying on our devices and our wireless data. And so Verizon's, work they do in any community is driven by demand.
Yeah.
So it's really impossible to say, and it's so complicated in development in highly developed areas. It's not so simple as saying, 1 pole per 2 miles. It's much more complicated than that. And Verizon has a network of all types of antennas. As Wendy mentioned, we have co-located antennas in smaller facilities and towers. So we really can't say definitively.
Yeah, okay.
There could be another structure built that could maintain and hold antennas in the future that we could put them on the roof. It's just hard to say.
What happened to the rotary dial phone? That's what I want to know.
What happened to the big bag you used to carry around, and you could call somebody and they'd patch you through?
Thank you. Are there any other questions? I'm probably the least technology savvy person on this council. I've only got one phone, but I depend on it, and I have Verizon coverage, which is absolutely the best. compared to the other ones, as far as I'm concerned. But I have not had any, I've had people hang up on me, but I haven't had any drop calls in that area at all, so I guess I'm lucky. So are there any other questions of the applicant?
I have one, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure the other jurisdictions in the high-growth corridor north of the perimeter are experiencing similar growth challenges. Are you in other jurisdictions dealing with the same issue that are comparable to ours?
Absolutely. It's a challenge, and it's becoming a greater challenge, every year as we densify, we develop, and in communities, particularly like this area of the city of Smyrna, the challenges with finding the most appropriate land use and balancing all of those needs and demands it's becoming more and more difficult. And it's something that Verizon is very sensitive to. We always try to find the best possible location to balance all of the needs.
Just as soon as we implement the hands-free, that ought to cut down on a lot of people using it. Okay, thank y'all very much. If you'll have a seat, we might have some more questions. For those folks that were sworn in that would like to make any public comment, would just please step forward, tell us who you are, and give us your name and address, and make the comments that you'd like to make.
Thank you. I did want to use the PowerPoint slide, if that's possible.
Wait, hold on. Now, what are you going to use?
I uploaded a PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, now here's my problem with people coming up with PowerPoints that we don't know what they are. Do you have a hard copy for us to look at?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Well, I don't know that I want to allow that. I've been given 2 hard copies.
Not have it there, but
one by the Williams Park folks, which we get to see, but Mr. Cochran, I'll ask for some assistance. I don't know what you're going to.
Yeah, I'm just going
put
to
on the screen.
I'm going to have some slides with some maps showing distances. I've got a couple of quotes from people regarding statistics on health concerns.
Okay, let's back up. Who are you and where do you live at?
Okay, so can I at least put that slide up, actually?
What is who you are and where you live at?
Yeah, my name is Bruce Lowe.
And I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm just, if everybody starts putting thumb drives up there, we don't know what's going to come up on the screen. And do you see what I'm saying?
I was under we kind of asked ahead if it was possible, so I was under the.
Did you ask? Did you talk to my office or did you talk to?
I'm not sure who. We were talking. Some of us were. There were people liaisoning on our behalf.
Again, I'm not trying to make it hard for the public to come up, make presentations. It's just if you get a thumb drive, we don't know what you could come up. We don't know what's going to show up on the screen.
Well, I can guarantee that there's nothing going to be problematic.
Well, I go ahead and let it happen, but we have got to establish some kind of policy. Again, we don't know what's going to show. It might be some porno or something. I don't know. Go ahead.
So, as I said before, my name's Bruce Lowe. As according to what's on the screen here, I live within.
And you live where, Mr. Lowe?
Live within 200 yards of where the cell tower is proposed.
And what's your address, please?
It's 2618 Davenport Street.
Good.
Smyrna. I have 5 children. 3 of my children are actually special needs, so you can see why health concerns are something of an issue for me in consideration.
Is this one of your kids here?
It is, yeah, but he doesn't.
Are you being punished tonight? Do you have to come to this? Is this interesting to you? Good. This kid's smart. You can tell. Go ahead.
He of his own accord asked if he could come and say something. So I said yes.
We're glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to talk about health concerns. I actually have a PhD in analytical chemistry, so I'm a scientist by training. And so as a result of that, I know, and because of some research that I've done on my own, I know that we and you as a mayor and councillors cannot, on the basis of health concerns, reject this proposal. And you know that, and I know that from our reading and understanding. But the question is why? Why aren't you allowed to, and why aren't we allowed to argue the case? Because cell phone company industry lobbied Congress using $35 million in 1996 to not allow this to happen, to effectively have a gagging order put upon the American people to stop us from arguing on the basis of health. Why? Because, frankly, everyone knows that electromagnetic radiation alters DNA, causing cancer. That is true when you lay out in the sun. We know that to be the case in a simple example like this. We know that to be a simple example when a radiographer wears a lead coat or stands behind when the photos are being taken. We know that electromagnetic radiation causes radicals which alter the DNA. And so someone like the two-time Nobel Prize laureate, or nominee, that is, Dr. Hyland says, existing safety guidelines for cell tower are completely inadequate. The incidence of brain cancer we know have increased by 25% since 1973. And so there has been many discussions worldwide, in fact, about the use of cell towers, and many countries have reduced the allowable limit much below what America has allowed. So I want to just really make a couple of points, Mayor and councillors. We can't argue on the basis of health, but I would like to argue first on the basis of credibility. If the cell phone industry has in a sense, shut down the discussion on health, the question is why? And the answer to that question is because that becomes one of the strongest arguments against this. And yet we're not allowed to argue that. So I can't speak against the health issues, but at least I can ask the question about credibility. And with that, I'd like to ask some questions about trust. A lot of the photos that we saw before were conveniently removed or didn't show angles that included housing that was right next door. And we're talking about a community here. We're talking about a community that exists. Now, another question that I want you to consider that I think is important is that the neighbourhoods that we're talking about within this region and the neighbourhoods that the coloured pattern was going to affect were neighbourhoods that were established neighbourhoods. We're not talking about neighbourhoods where apartments are being built up. Those apartments are being built in a very different area. The neighbourhood that we live in is an historic neighbourhood and is an established neighbourhood. So in terms of usage increasing, I don't see that argument as holding weight. So really all I want to say, I know I can't speak to the issue of health, but if I could simply argue this way and consider this, I think that what is necessary needs to be considered here. What is necessary in terms of cell towers needs to be considered. The coverage was poor, yes, in certain areas, but it was basically in our neighbourhood. I use AT&T, and when I drive up Village Parkway in the area that's shown on the map here, I lose coverage there. But my response is simply to tell the people I'm speaking on the phone to that I'll call them back, or I choose not to call on my phone until I leave that part of the area on the road. So my real argument here is actually an argument for necessity. Do we really need every area to be a red zone?
You're okay. Keep going. You're right.
Yeah, do we really need every area to be a red zone? And my question is, with how many more towers are we really going to need here before we have to do a mandate on these things?
Thank you so much.
My son wanted to speak as well, so.
Hello, my name is Jonathan, and I am a member of the community. I am opposed to the cell tower because of its harmful effect on people and the environment. I want to live as healthy as I possibly can. I also want this for my family. I have 3 disabled siblings whom I love, but I want them to be able to grow and function as best they can without the added negative effects a cell tower causes. Also, in order to care for them, I'd like the opportunity to grow up to be a healthy businessman. While I understand a business is designed to meet a need and make money, I believe that businesses should always be thoughtful, just, and do right to those around them, not just make money no matter what the cost. This is part of the problem with cell towers going up in our area. It seems to be coming from a desire to compete and make money rather than meet a need in our community. So I respectfully ask Mayor and Council that you refuse the cell tower request.
Jonathan, I'd like to ask you a question. So do you truly believe that this is an issue of health, that if we allow this tower, that it would create health problems for you and your family?
Yes, I do believe that.
Okay. So you don't think we ought to allow any more cell towers, period?
Yes. Well, yes. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right, good deal. Thank you very much. Thank you. You did good.
Thank you.
Better than your dad.
I thought so too. I was thinking the same
Thank
thing.
you. He did good. Okay. Anyone else that was sworn in? And this is a petition, or is this?
The petition, and then we have a couple of slides.
Okay, is that what we got earlier? Okay, I don't have any problem with that then. Okay. Yes, and that's this right here, right? Okay. It's got a USB, we got this, I'm good with that.
Uh-oh. Well, I guess we'll go with the paper ones.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Christy Barker. I'm a resident in the Williams Park neighborhood. We are here at Williams Park, Davenport, and the Rose Garden community because we feel very strongly against the Verizon cell tower. We are concerned members of some of Smyrna's oldest and most active and engaged neighborhoods. And we're proud of our active neighborhood, and we really want to see these neighborhoods continue to be a wonderful place to live. They're very historic. Many people have lived here their whole lives, and the houses are quite an asset to the community. We believe the cell tower in its current proposed location is bad for the neighborhood, and we'll go through a couple summary points of why. And we do have a petition. The number that I have in the deck is 209. We had some late additions to it, so we're actually up to 264 on signatures against the cell tower. So a couple of the reasons that we are opposed. We're very concerned about the positive development and growth in the neighborhood, especially in that area. So it's at the kind of the back of the neighborhood in the 5 Points area, as you've heard mentioned. And the current pics that were showed earlier they're indicative of what is there now, but we believe that that area could be so much more and has a lot of positive growth in its future. However, if we put the cell tower there, we're really concerned about future businesses coming in, developing there, people buying houses there. We think it'll be very detrimental. It will also have a negative effect on property values. There's been numerous studies about the property values for homes that are close to cell towers, which will also in turn affect the city of Smyrna tax revenue. We also believe this will be an eyesore for the community. You saw the renderings of what it will look like. Our neighborhood is full of trees. If you've ever walked through there, it's beautiful homes, lots of people walking, and we think this will take away from that. We also don't think it's needed. As we've mentioned before, there's many cell towers flanking the neighborhood. We don't see any issues with coverage. Again, most of that is anecdotal, so keep that in mind. But it certainly will become an eyesore for the neighborhood. As Bruce mentioned, there are some health concerns as well, so that's something to take into account. And then the biggest part is that the community is strongly opposed to it. We have 264 signatures on this petition from our concerned neighbors and community members. This petition was distributed January 1st through February 5th, and you all have a copy of it if you'd like to read the details of it. And then the biggest concern, as I mentioned, is really around the positive growth and the economic development of the area. And I think Keith has some more details that he's going to share. But are there any questions on what I covered?
If you got, do we have a copy of the petition?
It should be on the back. I printed copies for everybody. I think we may have printed some extras. But there's a petition to the back of each of these.
Yeah, we've got that. We just don't have the petition.
Okay.
Okay. I don't think, do we?
I apologize. Would you mind stating your name again? I missed it.
Yeah, it's Christy Barker.
Thank you.
On North Avenue in Williams Park.
Okay, go ahead.
So are there any questions on what I covered before we get into more of the development piece?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Good evening. I'm Keith Bentley from Williams Park. I think you've probably gotten tired of seeing me up here. I told Marilyn we don't usually have this many things going on at one time in Williams Park, but when the neighborhood's impacted by some of these things, we get engaged. We didn't appreciate the rules on the PowerPoint either, because it's the first time we've used that. Yep. Frankly, it's the first time we've had somebody with the technical skills to know how to do that. So, but anyway, I think the pictures, and that's really why we wanted this, is for the pictures. And you can talk about the facts and the maps and all that, but I think especially what I want to talk about is really sort of the economic condition maybe of that area right now, and then what we see is some very, very positive things happening this year, and then the cell tower just seems to be sort of a step backwards. We had but if you're looking at the slides on slide 5, it's the one that says what the area looks like now. You can see there's an abandoned car wash there on the left. I've lived in the neighborhood for 11 and a half years, something like that. That car wash has never operated. It's been sitting just like that for at least that long. If you look to the right, you see kind of a rundown house there, and then the kind of convenience store there. That's been like that for quite a while. On the next slide, you can see a little close-up of the 5 Points food store. And then you see the apartments. That's Macon's Point back there behind the convenience store. So it's not a pretty area. The next slide, slide 7, shows something. This is on sort of to the south, I guess, of Roswell Street. So there's some commercial buildings over there where you have CrossFit, Grateful Bread, some wrestling classes. I also, walking around over there, found out you can actually get fencing lessons over there, so if you're interested in that. So there's some commercial activity already in that area. So what could be there? All right, this is slide 8. I made this picture the other day, standing in front of that car wash, looking up Roswell and Hawthorne, straight ahead. You can just, I think you can maybe make out the public storage units that's behind the Casey Foods grocery. The grocery is right in the middle of the picture. So the cell tower, as I understand it, is going to be on Hawthorne, basically right behind that food store. As I said, what's coming in 2018 is the roundabout. And we have been talking about that, and y'all have been hearing about it for many years, and it's a SPLOST project. And that's the drawing that we have of where that's going to be, right at that 5 Points area. So we view that in our neighborhood as a very positive step. It's like we've been hoping that something would come in there to spur some positive growth in that area, and we think the roundabout is just kind of the first step there, and we finally are getting that. The owner of the Casey Foods, he's already had approved a restaurant. He has a lunch counter in that grocery store now, and in a previous meeting he's for quite some time had an approval to build a restaurant closer to the point. I think that has been delayed by the fact that he wasn't quite sure where the roundabout was going. So we had to get the roundabout nailed down before he can move forward with that. We also have Matt Younger, who lives in our neighborhood, who builds houses, but he's acquired that car wash property. He's planning to build a little mini food hall there. So if you've been to Krog Street Market, that kind of thing, where it's just little shops in there. Obviously, it's not as big as that, but that's the kind of idea that he intends to build there. And he's shown us the plans for that. So this is long-awaited positive stuff for that neighborhood. And his plan is, or his thought is, that was putting his food hall there will even spur more positive development in that area. So that's all on the upside. So if you look at the cell tower, The other pictures there, I just wanted to point out how close this is. I made these pictures from the notification signs. You can see that in the foreground. The one on Hawthorne, if you look down where the car is turning, you can see the steeple of Mount Zion Baptist Church. That's 430 feet. I stepped it off. That's equivalent from, if you went out to City Hall here to the flagpole, you get to 430 feet before you get to the roundabout. So that's that close to that church there. And it's about 600 feet from the intersection. So, and I'll just skip those next two. You saw those. Those actually are from the Verizon presentation of what the cell tower could look like. So what do we do here? We're literally at the crossroads here. Just thought of that. So this is the view from where that food hall would be. If you put that cell tower in, it's going to be basically right in the middle of that picture. And we just think that this area, how much negative impact would that have on economic development? I don't know, but it would have some, and this area's got plenty of negative to overcome already. So I just think it's a step in the wrong direction. And I know I'm over my time, but a couple of other points that people talked on, that we don't know whether the cell tower is needed, or we question that for sure. I looked at that too. From the middle of Williams Park is roughly a third of a square mile. And that is the area that they're targeting for better coverage. We have 3 cell towers already within a half a mile of the center of our neighborhood. There's one on Spring Road over there across from Dairy Queen, the one on Atlanta Road behind the fire station, and the one on Hawthorne over there, the ATC tower. I mean, now this one would surround us, so I guess we'd be saturated with cell towers. And we've been circulating this and talking about this since last August, and we have had nobody say, oh yeah, we need another cell tower because my coverage is horrible. I just get it. I think most of the issue might either be mobile traffic or the offloading. So I just think I would just urge you all just to look at this from the possible economic development there and how this is kind of a step in the wrong direction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any question?
Yep. Question. Thank you.
I'm Amy Shea. I have a house on Mimosa Circle. I've been here for almost 30 years now on Mimosa Circle. I've been here all my life, born at Kennestone. When I get up and go for my morning walk, I walk past a tower at the cemetery. I walk past a tower at the fire station, and we walk past a tower on Spring. So I'm not really sure how many of them that we need. And if you vote for this today, I'm really thinking that you get the cart before the horse, because you just voted last month or recently to say, if you're using your car, you can't use it unless it's hands-free in Smyrna. And that means a lot of people in Smyrna will not be using their phone when they're in their car, because you can't figure out the hands-free, or you're just not going to do it. So you're going to drive into Smyrna and you're going to put your phone up. And that's what you've told us to do. That's the message you're sending us. So right now we have people that are telling us that our need is we need another tower because of the usage. Well, in this particular area that you're looking at, you've got Windy Hill Road. We've been up here, I don't know how many times, complaining about the traffic in our neighborhood because it's all cut through. You've got Spring, it's all cut through. And you've got the road that connects Spring and Windy Hill. It's all cut through. All these people, and the second list that she had for usage was in-car usage. How much usage are we going to have, and do we really need this tower? And I don't even think you can tell that, or these people that are wanting this tower. I don't think they can tell you the percentage of the people that will not be using their phone to warrant this tower. And how many of them are we going to have in the area? If I have to walk around and I already see 3 every morning, so now I'm going to see 4, how many more are you going to approve? I mean, at some point, you got to go enough is enough. And if they're asking for setbacks, you have the setbacks for a reason. Let's use them. You have it for a reason. You can say, I know it's only a variance of an additional 10 feet or whatever, but you have it for a reason. Uphold what you've got. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ron Davis. I live on Roswell Street Southeast in Smyrna over in Williams Park. A couple general comments before I start. No one from Williams Park was present at the Planning and Zoning Board. And I think most of you know that we are interested in what's going on in our neighborhood. For some reason, we didn't know about it. We'd have been here in force. We didn't know about it. So I don't know what the problem is. That sign's been up there at the Publix for a long time, and I guess we just got tired of driving by it and checking it because there wasn't anything happening. But we might need to take a look at how we notify citizens. I know it's on the web. I don't go there. I'm not smart enough. And I know we use the signs, but maybe there's a better way. I don't know. What we've heard from Verizon tonight is this is the best possible site. It's the best possible site for Verizon, but is not a good site for Williams Park, Rose Garden, Davenport, or the city of Smyrna. And I'll go through some of the reasons, and you've heard a couple of them already. I might add also that there wasn't a whole lot of interest generated by Verizon at the first meeting that we had with them to go look at other sites. All the other sites that they've looked at, we asked them to go look at. They were trying to sell this site to start with. We asked them to take a look at the community center. We asked them to look at the site on Hawthorne Avenue, which they didn't even know was there. And we asked them to look at the site down near QT on Windy Hill Road. I'm not going to go into the details, but I think all of us know that there's a lot of good things happened over across the railroad tracks, between those tracks and Little Five Points in the last 25 years. A lot of good development. A lot of good families moved in. A lot of contributions made from people that live there to this city. And we moved the quality growth from the tracks right up to 5 Points. And that's where we are now. And the last real positive thing that took place there near Little Five Points was when this council approved the tear down of those old apartments there where now Whitfield Park is. So we were able to move from an older, worn out apartment facility. I think there was 189 or 98 apartments in there. And we didn't get the zoning we wanted or the density we wanted, less density. But anytime you can go from apartments to family-owned, single-family units, you've done good. And that's what happened. And we got a ton of good families in there. And they've just paid for those houses or are paying for them. And when they bought in there, they didn't know about the cell tower. But what we're hoping is with that new development and some other things that I will mention briefly, is that we can halo effect on in to Little Five Points. And this council also approved that nice apartment complex on the east side, down on the right on Windy Hill. So we got improvements on both sides. And there's great things going on in Rose Garden and Davenport. And this gentleman back here, we'll talk to that after I finish. So you got three neighborhoods that oppose this thing. And I've been down in Davenport and Rose Garden and in my own community. Haven't found a soul who says we need better cell phone coverage. My little flip phone works perfectly. I'm with AT&T. We've got to start already in addition to Whitfield Park. There is a developer who has bought at least one house right up there across the street from Whitfield Park. He's negotiating for another one right up there. He's negotiating to buy the house that's contiguous to the car wash on Hawthorne, which is boarded up now and has been. It used to be a chiropractor's office. And the gentleman who's doing this is named Rick Tooley, who is the fellow who bought the property down at the old cemetery down on Hawthorne, that we're starting to work with the city now to get that property cleaned up. If you would allow me a couple more minutes, I would appreciate it. Back when we were negotiating and working with the owners of mom and pops for him to move across the street, we were able to work several more things into that proposal in terms of stipulations that helped us. One thing that we were able to do, thank God, was we were able to get him to take down that 50-foot or so, don't hold me to the height, but way up there, billboard that advertised Marlboro cigarettes on one side. I don't remember the other side. So we got one high structure torn down. We got a liquor store moved. It was down there where the new store is now that the mom and pop people own. We were able to get the parking behind the store rather than out on Roswell Street. The liquor store gone, the old VFW building on the corner that was literally waiting to fall, it was torn down, and that's now a nice grassy area. Plus at least two other old worn out buildings were removed. So we got a lot of the eyesore out, and we got a new store. And the mom and pop people have recently made some improvements to that old store. And I believe they've gotten the gas pumps torn down, haven't they? I think so. The gas pumps that were out front have been removed. I didn't know this until about a week ago, but I learned that years ago that Ed Hatcher was in there and was ready to move on redeveloping that area. And then the economy went south. And he literally went south too, to St. Simon's Island. And there's been other interest, according to our past city council person, Terry Nullowitz. I know she's talked to other people with interest in going in there and doing some things. Keith has mentioned the roundabout. He mentioned Matt Younger with his project. I talked to Matt a couple of weeks ago. We've met with him on his site up there a couple of times, and he plans a nice retail food shops kind of thing. But when I talked to him and told him about this tower thing, he said, oh my goodness, I don't know whether I'm as excited about it now or not. And I'm not trying to speak for Matt. If I had to guess, he will go forward, but probably with a little bit more intrepidation than he now has. So again, we're looking for the roundabout, Matt's project, if he goes forward, the better economy, and trying to get some people in there to redevelop that area. I've had a vision for it for years as some type of mixed use, a nice retail mall, condos perhaps, no apartments, we've got enough of them. And it'll help home prices, it will help our area, it will help your tax base, it'll help everybody. Liz told me today when she was sitting at the red light coming off of Windy Hill Road there on Roswell Street, she happened to look down Hawthorne Avenue, and you can see the cell tower down by the cemetery that we've been talking about from that intersection. Approve this one, we'll be able to see two from that intersection. Who benefits from this cell tower? Verizon, the people that own Publix, storage, and I can't think of anybody else. And they will benefit on the backs of 3 neighborhoods in this city. We haven't found anybody that says we need better cell phone coverage down there. I want to comment on the petition also. Not only have we found anybody in Williams Park that wants it, we've got 264 signatures, thanks to Christie, that oppose it. At the first meeting we had down at the Mount Zion Baptist Church in Rose Garden, after hearing the proposal, I turned to the Verizon representative and asked a simple question. I asked her, since you've heard all of the discussions about why we do not want it, don't think we need it, would you do like T-Mobile did 2 years ago and withdraw your request? And of course, we haven't gotten an answer yet. And I'm not going to ask the question of them now tonight, but if they would withdraw it now would be a good time. I've got one note here I'm trying to decipher.
Okay, yeah, you need to sort of wrap it up.
I can't
Ron.
decipher it. So I'm
I've let
finished.
you
Thank
go
you for
over
your
5
time.
minutes, so.
I urge you to vote against this proposed tower.
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Great, great.
Good to hear. I'm Stephen Berman. I'm Vice President of the Rose Garden Davenport Town Neighborhood Association. And I was never talked to about this cell phone tower going in my neighborhood. Neither was Betty Williams, who's president of the association. And this cell tower is right at the entrance of our neighborhood. It's welcoming you to the most historic African-American community in Cobb County by a cell tower. That's exactly how I'd want to be brought into a historic community. That cell tower is right on the road, and it would be a horrible eyesore. It's bad enough at this point. I mean, I use the Waze application, but the amount of people cutting through my neighborhood, I've been living here since 2008, and hardly any traffic came through. You stand there in the morning, it's amazing. And that's why they need that cell tower, for these people who are riding through our neighborhood at high speeds, whose phones drop off. You know what? You should have a privilege of riding through my neighborhood, and if your phone drops off, who cares? And I want to ask each and every one of you, if a cell tower is going to be so close into your neighborhood, how would you feel? Would you want it in your neighborhood? Would you want people who are driving by because their phone calls dropped, that was why they wanted the cell tower in your neighborhood? Not because people in your neighborhood actually need it. It has been proven that home values drop 25% when a cell tower moves in. That's a fact. That's less revenue for the city. I bought in 2008 during the recession, and all the projects that were around me had fallen through and nothing was being built. Well, the area is finally being built up. My home is increasing in value. We have the wonderful Brave Stadium there, which is also causing homes to increase in value. And it's a hopping neighborhood. And I feel and I know that you bring a cell tower in, especially one that is right on the road like that, I know that it will destroy the neighborhood and the feel of the neighborhood. And I want you all, again, to put yourself in my place. I'm just down the street on Davenport. To see that horrible cell tower, as well as all the traffic coming through my neighborhood now, is the one reason why I don't want that cell tower there. And yes, I don't disapprove of cell towers, but is it really necessary? Is it really necessary for every single person in the world to be able to have cell phone coverage exactly when they need it? I know if it was in your neighborhood, I would vote against it, because I wouldn't want that for you. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who was sworn in? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Lisa Castleberry. I live in Knoll Road, and I've had several carriers, and I don't have any problems with my phone. I live in Rose Garden. No drops. Go to 5 Point all the time, no drops. So I hope y'all vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen McQuaid, 1555 Roswell Street. Keith and Ron stole a lot of my thunder, so I'll try to blow through this since we've been kind of going after this for a while. But out of everybody in the Williams Park neighborhood, I'm probably the closest to the proposed site. I'm 2 doors up from the Feed and Seed, so I'm kind of the east end of our neighborhood. And just about 13 years ago, I took a risk buying that house on Roswell Street when Mr. Mayor, you and Councilman Welch, I think, were the only two up here that were serving the city at that time. And a lot of my friends that lived inside the perimeter especially thought I was crazy, and my family did too, when they came over and saw an apartment complex run down that was built in the 50s or 60s. Couldn't believe what we were doing, but kept coming back to this neighborhood, and people thought you were crazy with the redevelopment of Market Village, and the folks in East Cobb still think we're crazy, and Cobb County school system still tries to deny there's been a halo effect, but we're winning that battle. So I took the risk seeing what was happening. And about a year after that, former Councilman Bill Scoggins approached me. He lived up the street, redevelopment of the apartment complex, tried to get me on board, along with some of the other residents. After numerous meetings, we came to an agreement with the developer for what we could do. Ron mentioned that, not what we wanted to, but it was a lot better than what they had proposed. Unfortunately, the Great Recession hit, and I stared at the pipe farm for 7 years, what became affectionately known as the pipe farm. And for those who are new, that was the plumbing that sat there on the 10 acres that the roads have been cut, and we stared at that for 7 years. But during that time, we got with Smyrna PD to start cleaning up 5 Points. There was a couple of businesses in there. At night, you drive by, there'd be 30, 40 people hanging out in the parking lot. Nothing good was coming of it. That got cleaned up. And as we slowly climbed out of the recession, as referenced, the owner of Mom and Pop's built Casey Foods, and that improved the area as was discussed. The proposed townhome development across the street became Whitfield Park, which was discussed, became 76 single-family homes that the developer said, oh, it's going to take 3 years to build, a year and a half completely build out. They couldn't build them fast enough. So many people wanted to be in Smyrna, specifically in Williams Park with its proximity to Market Village and everything that's going on. Now the city's about to break ground on the long-awaited 5 or 6 points, depending on how many roads you want to count, intersection, which is going to cost a lot of money. I'm in total favor of it. Ms. Anulowicz, I know that was one of her items that she really cared about. As Ron mentioned, she told me numerous times that she would get cold calls from one developer such as Brock Built, who was big into the in-town development. When the townhome was being developed across the street from us, the people that own Megan's Point told Coro Development and then John Willis, hey, if that takes off, I may be willing to think about selling my property. Well, of course, when the economy tanked, he didn't sell, so we still have Megan's Point as it is right now. We mentioned Matt Younger and his plans and what his thoughts are about this tower there at the abandoned car wash. It was open the year I moved in, it closed, and it just became a garbage dump until they finally took the trash cans out years later. Not only will the residents of Rose Garden, Davenport, and Williams Park be directly impacted by this tower, as will Matt Younger, and if he has that concern about the redevelopment, what do future developers who we're hoping will come and continue this growth that started right here in Ground Zero all the way out to Windy Hill towards the golf course? I'm curious as to what tax revenue this is going to generate for the city, if any increase, since they're building on an existing property. We haven't discussed that, so maybe that's something they could answer. But it seems to pale, if there is a tax increase for you, that it would pale in comparison to any future development. Hypothetically, if Megan's Point disappeared, any other of those facilities around there turned into more higher revenue generating businesses or single-family houses or multi-family housing. So it seems counterproductive that the city would invest the amount of money that's going to take to purchase the land, to do the public works work, to do that roundabout, that we're shooting ourselves in the foot and going backwards if we're going to let something go in that's going to hinder future development. In the meeting, I was present at the church. I personally proposed, have you talked to the people that own the Celestial Church, I think is the correct name. It sits on the hill above this proposed site, or the company next to it, or the community center. They had not spoken to any of those people. We referenced to Ms. Blackburn recently, what about not only the school, I gave her the name of the guy from Casey Foods. He might be interested. If you're going to allow it in the neighborhood, I would say let the church build it on their property. At least let them generate the revenue. Because my fear is any future developer who's going to come in and may want to buy that storage unit facility, Now it's probably going to be a legal battle with Verizon. They probably will not find a way to prohibit him from selling that property. There's been proven cases that happens. And just in reference to a few things they said, as far as the height of the tower, I'm a professional pilot. It's what I do every day. I'm well aware of cell towers and proximities to airports. I think they said 40 feet was the difference in the elevation at the community center. I may be wrong, maybe 40, 60. So they said, oh, we have to build a 200-foot tower. Well, is that 240 feet? Or is that a 200-foot tower taking the reduction in elevation? And if the height is the same above the treetop level that what they're proposing, I don't see why the FAA would prohibit that unless there is a demarcation line on Roswell Street or Hawthorne that would prohibit that. So I think that's something that would be worth asking them. Also, collating towers, if it's on a different frequency as the ATC tower and these other towers, Keith didn't show it, but there are numerous sites throughout the city that have cell towers 20, 30 feet next to each other. I checked with my neighbor who's an electrical engineer, works for Georgia Tech, and he said as long as there could be interference, but if they're on different frequencies, which, again, I'm not an expert, they might be able to answer that. If that's a possibility, putting it next to an existing tower, if that relieves some of that congestion, seems like a better alternative than putting it. And my last point would be I find it convenient that they, in their proposal, did not show a image of the cell tower from 5 Points at the red light, whether you're at Hawthorne or whether you're coming down Roswell Street. Instead, they chose to go behind the warehouses and the wrestling units and shoot a picture where you only saw the top third at best of the tower, or a zoom close in on Davenport, not people coming down from Hawthorne or Williams Park to show you truly what the visual impact what everybody is concerned about. I could totally support them. They put it behind the church or behind any of those buildings, behind the community center, just like we don't see the one behind the cemetery as much because it's not in your direct line of sight, so I don't think it has that big of a negative impact. So I urge you to deny the request, and I thank you for your time.
Anyone else who was, all right, now Liz, now Ron went over almost 6 minutes. This will be a blessing.
My name is Liz Davis. I live at 1351 Roswell Street. And I beg you to protect your constituents, protect our neighborhoods. Please don't let this happen. Please vote no on this project.
Much better than Keith or Ron, long-winded, 12-minute dissertation. Anyone else who was sworn in like to make any public comment? You know, after a little while, we figure things out, so I don't know if there's anything else that can be said. Yes, ma'am.
Can we make just a couple of...
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you. We won't go by point, of course. I just want to clarify a couple of things and make just, again, a couple of overarching final comments that a lot of what we heard was stressing the importance of economic development in this community. And I would urge you to consider that adequate wireless service is paramount, number one, in facilitating growth, particularly business growth. And to that end, just to clarify one point, we mentioned the coverage maps that show the in-car and in-building coverage. And I wanted to clarify, I don't think I mentioned this, that's not a quantitative map, that's a qualitative map. So those, the colors aren't representing, for instance, drivers or commuters or actual points of use. That's more of a qualitative determination that's very poor quality of service in that area. So we can't say that, you know, all the green on that map is someone who's just traveling through the neighborhood. It's a qualitative indicator that there's just poor quality service that regardless of, you know, why you're present in that area, that you would have poor coverage. And finally, again, I want to urge that, or stress that Verizon is sensitive to the challenges and the concerns of locating a tower, any telecommunications facility in a highly developed area, and we're doing the best to balance all of those concerns. And Verizon takes it very seriously to evaluate all alternatives, and any site that has been brought to our attention, we have looked at. And again, there's so many site constraints in this area with the Air Force Base, topography, development pressures, and other land use issues that some categorically, we can just say that parcel's just too small or too close to Dobbins Air Force Base to allow the height that we would require, or too far out of the search area. Or in a lot of cases with these existing towers that have been mentioned, Verizon is either already on the towers or they're too close to existing facilities to make any meaningful difference in this area. So again, we take that very seriously, and we in good faith evaluate every alternative that's been brought to us. And the gentleman raised the question about the 200-foot height tower at the community center and the elevation issue. And no, I understood the question, and it's not so simple as saying, well, if you're 70 feet lower in elevation and build a tower that's higher, you're still, at the same plane to meet the FAA requirement. But it's not quite that simple, because we're moving further away from the search area. Therefore, the tower would have to be higher, and we simply, FAA would not approve a tower height in that location. So an equivalent tower to reach that same plane would not work. Wendy, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, if I could, please. I did want to address some of the concerns with the first couple of meetings that we did have. The reason that we didn't talk about or look at every single piece of property that was brought up or suggested is because a lot of times the properties are too small. They don't meet the setbacks that you already have in place in your guidelines. As I mentioned before, when our field managers go out to identify these properties, the first thing they do is they meet with the planning and zoning department and usually say, okay, within this area of our confinement, what properties are the right size? Which ones meet your requirements that you as a county have in place? We did try to follow up with Terry, who was before Marilyn, to address these questions. Anytime we got calls or questions about sites or why this one wouldn't work or could this one work, we addressed those as quickly as possible. I did get a call from someone at Rosewood. They told me that we had a nice conversation. I said I'd be happy to talk with you. And, he suggested something about something for his community, maybe money for a playground or something like that. I said Verizon truly wants to work with you guys and help out make it as nice and as easy for us as we can, so that we can all work together and this can benefit everyone in the long run. So there was conversations that were had, and there was an attempt to Verizon to try to work to find the best possible location. But this, no matter how hard we tried, no matter how many times we looked, no matter how many times we approached the FAA, made the RF guys go back and do studies on properties that were not in their original areas, this is still the property that would work from a RF engineering standpoint view for the needs. So thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If there's no other comments for those folks that were sworn in, we'll close that portion of the public hearing. And Ms. Blackburn.
Wow. I don't know about you guys, but I'm tired. That was a lot to listen to. And I'm glad that we all came out and said what we had to say. So at this point, Mayor, if there aren't any other questions from my members here? No, okay, well. I'm going to move to deny the zoning request 217-019 request for a special land use permit for the installation of a cell tower at 1700 Roswell Street. The applicant has not shown that it is entitled to the variances that are embedded in the request.
We have a motion to deny. Is that a second? By Mr. Norton. Is there any other discussion? Motion is second to deny. All those in favor of the motion, please vote. It's 5 to deny and 2. Mr. Stoner and Mr. Fennell vote in the negative, so that the motion to deny is approved 5 to 2. Item 5 on the agenda is previous license. We have none. 6 is formal business. A 2018-151, approval of the contract with Ashley Shares to conduct preservation work in the amount of $18,100 to begin by June the 2nd, 2018, and authorize the mayor to sign and execute any associated documents. The background, Miss Tammy Sadler-Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. The Smyrna Memorial Cemetery is located in downtown Smyrna, next to the Smyrna Market Village. It was established in the 1840s. At the request of city staff, the Smyrna Memorial Cemetery was evaluated by Ashley Shares, who is a professional preservationist who works for the Oakland Cemetery Foundation. The cemetery was deemed to be in desperate need of preservation efforts. Ms. Shares' services will include resetting of markers in their original position, stabilizing of monuments, preventive repairs where possible, and cleaning of many markers. She expects this work to be completed in about 6 months. Ms. Shares will be responsible for purchasing all the materials for the work in the cemetery. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the agreement with Ms. Ashley Shares in the amount of $18,100.
Mr. Corky Welch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tammy, I don't know if you mentioned it, but the first part of this little project is to go in and literally to clean up the brush and debris from the cemetery. I take it from the city standpoint that we have an obligation. That is our cemetery, and we have an obligation to keep it nice. With that being said, I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Ms. Ashley Shares to conduct preservation work of the Smyrna Memorial Cemetery in the amount of $18,100 to begin by June 2nd, and authorize the mayor to sign and execute the associated documents.
Got a motion and a second by Mr. Norton. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please vote. It's approved 7-0. Item 52, approval to enter into a master right-of-way license agreement with Mobilite LLC and for the mayor to execute all related documents. Ms. Jones, the background, please.
Mobilite is a telecommunications infrastructure company, and they have submitted an application to place a small cell antenna at Sanford Place and Powder Spring Street. The staff, we worked with the Georgia Municipal Association. They worked with they worked with Mobilite to develop a comprehensive master right-of-way license agreement. The agreement was developed in an effort to help facilitate the deployment of wireless infrastructure within Georgia cities while recognizing the city's right to manage access in our right-of-way. Staff recommends approval of the master right-of-way license agreement with Mobilite LLC, and it's my understanding there is a representative from Mobilite here.
Where you at?
Maybe he didn't come today.
I hope they left. I mean, I would have left. I wouldn't have stayed this long. Mr. Fennell, who chairs Finance and Administration.
Mr. Mayor, I'm just going to put on the record, I'm going to pronounce it mobility because it has an IE at the end, and I happen to. Anyway, I move approval to enter into a master agreement, right-of-way license agreement with Mobility LLC, the mayor to.
Y'all don't say Mobilite.
It's mobility.
It's a mobility?
Second.
Mobility.
Now you changed your mind. Okay. Got a motion and a second. Did we get a second?
Yeah, second.
Mr. Stoner. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion? We had a big debate the other night whether it was mobile light or mobility. So anyway, it passes 7-0. Item C, 2018-50 calming program. Ms. Jones, the background, please.
Smyrna residents have expressed concerns about speeding and cut-through traffic in their residential neighborhoods. In response to their concerns, city staff have developed a neighborhood traffic calming program policy. The program addresses the procedures through which neighborhoods can be considered for reducing, filtering, or slowing external traffic through the use of physical traffic calming measures, as well as educational programs and enhanced enforcement. There is a section in the policy that addresses funding, what the city shall pay, and what the neighborhood or affected resident owners shall pay, but this will be determined on a case-by-case basis. Staff recommends approval of the new neighborhood traffic calming program policy.
This is Mr. Corky Welch, who chairs the Public Works. Mr. Welch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to go on the record as saying I'm going to support this with little hesitation. But this is not the perfect ordinance. So it is going to be a work in progress for some time. I think we're going to have, it's one of these things we're going to put out there and try, and we're going to modify. We'll modify it every 6 months until we get it right. But with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve this program and be signed.
This is not a public hearing. You can at the end of the meeting, if you'd like to, if you've signed up to speak there. Okay. Need a second? Yeah, you can make it after we get a second.
Got one.
A second by Ms. Blackman. Okay. Now comments.
Okay, a request to speak. I know that there are several that I represent, and I know that I've been, I guess this policy was presented back a few years ago, back when Eric Randall first came to work here. I think he has been here about, 5 years now? Is that right, Scott? Or, and so I remember initially and where people were there concerned about the cars speeding down Oaks Parkway, and that's an older the driveways are very close together, and he had already told them that their neighborhood wasn't the right place to put speed humps because the driveways were too close together. And he presented a presentation about this, these different ideas for neighborhood calming. And I remember being very excited about these different options for these neighborhoods. And so now it's been a few years. We've been this policy was brought before us, and then I guess it was put on the back burner. But that's the exact kind of neighborhood that would benefit from some of these creative ideas because they can't use the speed humps. But my concern is with the way the policy is and the way the petition process is, and it's a difficult process in some of the poorer neighborhoods. I feel like that traffic calming is a city function, and making citizens pay separately for a city function on a public street penalizes some of our older, poorer neighborhoods, people who have the least amount of resources, seniors on fixed incomes, and economically disadvantaged. And the petition process, even for the speed humps for some of these neighborhoods, is already a challenge. And I've experienced that in the 6 years that I've been representing these neighborhoods. And I know, I also know that there's several neighborhoods that I represent that have cut-through traffic from like Windy Hill Road to South Cobb Drive. That would be the Glendale
Circle and Glendale Road neighborhoods, and I get calls from them quite often about the cars going through their neighborhood. And, unfortunately, there's a working class neighborhood. It's very diverse, and I think it would be very difficult to get a petition in that neighborhood. And even if they got the petition, I think getting the funds to contribute to some of these kinds of ideas is going to be very difficult. And I also want to talk about another neighborhood because I know I have a couple of people here from the Belmont Circle neighborhood. That is also another neighborhood that I've had calls with and talked to them about probably for 4 years about the issues on Belmont Circle. It's another cut-through road from, a lot of people cut through from Atlanta Road to Windy Hill and vice versa. And with the construction of the Windy Hill Road Boulevard, that's going to be become more prominent, the cut-through traffic on those roads. And the Belmont Circle has limited sidewalks now, and they do have a lot of pedestrians that come down that street, and they have cars that come around. It's an older street, and it's got a curb to it and very limited right-of-way. That's why it's difficult to get sidewalks in there, but they have issues with the pedestrians and the speeding cars that come through there. I know that they've also been interested in getting a petition together, but it's another diverse neighborhood that's difficult to, that process is difficult. You also have a language difference in these neighborhoods, and getting the petition signed by the neighbors that may not speak English is going to be a challenge. So then I want to also talk about Woodland Trail. Woodland Trail is a neighborhood with about 8 homes that were built in probably the late 50s. It's very wooded, and it's actually very beautiful back there. And that's another area where they've talked about the pedestrians and the cars, and it's a hill, and it's a very steep incline, and then it goes over a creek, and it goes into a cul-de-sac with about the 8 older brick homes. But at some time, over the years, someone decided that it would be a good idea to also have an entrance to an apartment complex in that cul-de-sac. And that apartment complex was, I would guess, I'm sure it was built after the 50s when these homes were, probably the 70s. But that apartment complex now has 22 buildings and 8 units to the building. And they only have one way to get in and out of that apartment complex, and that's on Woodland Trail, and that's on that steep incline. It's a narrow road, and there's no sidewalks on it, and the cars do speed down there. But they've been told that because of the incline, the speed humps would not be appropriate for that street. And so it continues to be a problem. And with the apartment complex back there, there also are a lot of children that continually that are dropped off from the bus either at the top of the hill, or a lot of times I see them walking from Campbell High School on Belmont Circle and then down that hill into that apartment complex. And I just think that this policy, the way it's written, sets up an unfair advantage to some of these older neighborhoods that are in desperate need of traffic calming ideas in areas where speed humps will not work. Thank you.
Any other comments? This policy is not a fix-all policy. That we adopt the policy tonight, and it's going to take care of all the issues of traffic calming. It's going to not take care of issues with cut-through traffic, but it's a beginning to sort of work in that direction, as Mr. Welch said. I'm sure that we'll be making changes to it. I believe this, that if there's an issue, we can address that issue without going through the petition. I want to make sure that I'm right on that. It doesn't necessarily mean that every single speed hump, every single traffic calming device has to be approved by someone going to get a petition. The issue about the money, I believe, is that we've had several neighborhoods that have said, look, we believe in this particular kind of traffic calming device that we would put money into it. We would donate to the city to help fund that. It's not for every single community. I live on a cut-through street also. Hundreds of cars cut from Concord Road to North Coop Lake Road to get to South Cobb Drive every single day. I've had people that are out there that have shot guns up in the air, that have been so upset because there's so much traffic that's cut through, trying to figure out how to do it. And it's generally not people that live inside the city limits of Smyrna. It's people that's going from, I keep throwing out West Cobb, South Cobb, Paulding County, that's coming through our community, through our neighborhoods to get to their destination. But at least it's a move in the right direction to start something, and I think it'll help. Any other comments? Mr. Venable.
Mr. Mayor, I agree with Mr. Welch that I have a degree of trepidation too, but I think what we have here is a crafted policy that allows a lot of flexibility. I think the staff and our legal team have given our staff the ability to couch a number of positive opportunities that can come to us, and we can be specific each time about something. But I'm going to vote for this so we can have a policy in place against which we can throw some ideas and experiment and change if necessary, which I hope we do when needed.
I will say this policy, traffic calming devices, came up prior to Mr. Welch even being on this council. Mike McNabb was a council member, and I remember the first meeting we had was with the Forest Hills Preservation Group as far as cut through traffic on Lee and Dunn Street. And we looked at some traffic calming issues then, and we didn't have a policy. And so we've been waiting 7, 8 years. So, okay. Any other, Mr.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just want to say in Ward 1, we've got 2 long straightaways at Carolyn and Spring, and I've been working on getting speed humps there for ever since I've been elected, and even before that. I know Stephen Jones is out there in the audience. He's gone around and gotten petition signed and all of that. I actually think, based on our lengthy conversation in our agenda meeting last week, that this policy will actually help. They've been saying, hey, we're working on the traffic calming policy. Once we get that adopted, we'll start getting things done. And I think this will help. And like the mayor said, it in some cases it will eliminate the lengthy process of getting the petition and all of that kind of thing. So I think this is a move in the right direction, and I'm going to support this.
All right, all those in favor of the motion, please vote. Let's approve 6-1. Ms. Wilkinson voting in the negative. Item 7, consent agenda. Ms. Jones, will you please read the consent agenda for council approval?
The consent agenda reads as follows. Item A, approval of the January 16th, 2018 mayor and council meeting minutes. Item B, approval of the January 16th, 2018 pre-council meeting minutes. Item C, approval of the January 11th, 2018 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. Item D, approval of the January 12th, 2018 special called work session meeting minutes of the mayor and council. Item E, approval of the Atkins Park Annual Crawfish Bowl, Saturday, April 28th, 2018 from 11 a.m. to 10:45 p.m., and Saturday, April 29th, 2018 from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Atkins Park Tavern requests street closing to include Market Village from Atlanta Road to City Hall. Traffic Circle will be reopened Saturday night as soon as possible after the last band has finished. Item F, approval of the 2018 16th Annual St. Patrick's Day Celebration Weekend in the Market Village, Saturday, March the 17th, 2018, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Sunday, March the 18th, 2018, from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Atkins Park Tavern requests street closing for the 2018 St. Patrick's Day celebration to include West Spring Street from Atlanta Road and terminating at the end of the fountain area at the corners of Atkins Park Tavern and Corner Taqueria. And item G, approval to use council chambers for Crete Wood at Vining's annual HOA meeting Sunday, February the 18th, 2018, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m.
To hear a motion, we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor of the motion, please vote. Who we waiting on? It's approved 7-0. Item, Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no committee report, but I just want to say a word about our first responders here in Smyrna. We've got the best in the business as far as fire and police personnel. We go about our days and, we're protected, and if anything happens to us, we are, the paramedics will get there quickly. I don't know if y'all have had anything happen to you along the way, but I have twice. My wife was in a wreck when she was pregnant with my daughter. And a week ago Sunday, my 1-year-old son had a seizure, and our men and women were there in minutes and helpful and got us through our situation. And if you see a police officer or a firefighter, I hope that you'll say thank you. I hope that nothing ever happens to any of you or your families, but it's nice knowing that if it does, we've got the finest people working for the city to assist. With that, I yield.
Ms. Andrea Bluestein.
Yes, Your Honor. I just wanted to remind everybody, we've tried to publish this as many places as we could, but we want to make sure that the citizens of Smyrna are aware that we are going to have Smyrna's Strategic Vision Plan meeting, the 2018 Community Update, tomorrow night from 6:30 to 8:30 at Bronner Hall. If you are already a member, please do try to come. If you would like to join, please come, and we'll tell you about that, because we feel like the more people we get, and we've got a number of different avenues, it's not just one group. But we feel like that the more people that we have living in Smyrna who attend and who want to participate in making this city good, great, special, we need your input. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night, 6:30 to 8:30 at Bronner Hall. Thank you.
Ms. Blackburn.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Oh, nothing to report? Oh, sorry. Mr. Welch.
Very quickly. Thank you. I just want to make an announcement. On February the 17th, we're having a little Arbor Day celebration at North Cooper Lake Park. And at that time, we will also, unless I hear differently, have a ribbon cutting for the little playground that we recently installed down there. I know there are several people that would want to know that, so I'll put it out on my Facebook page and make that announcement. Thank you.
Ms. Susan Wilkins.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to let the citizens know about an upcoming event at Smyrna Citizens Academy, and it's sponsored by Advanced Disposal. It's 2018 Smyrna Citizens Academy. And with this, if people want to sign up, you can sign up on the website, and you will learn a lot of things about the city during a 9-week course featuring interactive sessions on administration and city council, finance and human resources, community development and IT, public works, parks and recreation, public safety, library and museum, and Keep Smyrna Beautiful and community relations. The application deadline is March 13th, 2018, and the sessions will begin on March 20th, and they will conclude on May 15th. And those sessions will be on Tuesday nights from 6 o'clock to 8:30 p.m. And so you can sign up, go to the website and sign up for that. But I also want to say a little bit more about the traffic calming policy. I think there are some great ideas in there, but I just have concerns about the neighborhoods that I mentioned and being able to get those in their neighborhoods, but also the policy. I mean, I hear a lot of things, and I actually talked to Scott Stokes for a long time on Friday, and he made me feel more comfortable about it. But then when I reread the policy, it's not outlined in that way, and the funding is sort of vague, and the way that the funds will be collected from the citizens is vague, and I just feel like there needs to be more information laid out in that way. So with that, I yield. Thanks.
Mr. Doug Stone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have a committee report tonight, but I do have an announcement for my fellow members on this on the City Council and also my constituents. Today I announced for the Public Service Commission, District 5, and I will be officially resigning on March 6th, so I will be here for our next 2 City Council meetings. If everything goes according to plan in my conversations with our city clerk, the city will hold a special election to replace me on the City Council here on May 22nd, is when the primaries are for both parties. So the citizens, again, will hopefully save some money since there's going to be an election already going on. I just want to thank everyone I've served with here on the City Council. As a native of this city, obviously my hometown, I've enjoyed serving here. Part of my many years of service when I served on the Development Authority too. I want to thank the mayor. I very much have enjoyed working with him on a lot of issues. And I want to thank our new city administrator too, and everything. Enjoyed working with her. And along with the rest of the staff, I would have to say, as someone who has chaired many committees and different authorities over the years, we have a great staff here in Smyrna. We have a very good council that works together. Yes, we don't always agree, as an example tonight, but that's okay. We're very respectful of each other, and we work together even sometimes when we disagree. But again, I just want to thank everyone and look forward to working with this community, hopefully whatever may come of my race for Public Service Commission. Thank you very much.
Mr. Fennell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good luck, Doug. The Finance Administration Committee met this afternoon for an hour on our regular update. I'm happy to say we disposed of a few items of business. We're recommending things to the full council for their next set of consideration decisions on some of the recommended use of last year's surplus and some of the projects in our capital improvement program that remain out there to be pursued. And we talked a little bit about all aspects, particularly the audit that we recently received, a clean audit that we were proud to say of our financial condition. And so today we took one more step to getting closer to the next budget. So as we go through this process, the public will be able to engage any aspect they want to in our financial condition of the city. We're very proud of where we are, of the staff, of the team, and I look forward to working with the citizens as we complete this process. With that, Mr. Mayor, I yield.
Thank you. Just let me say this before I ask Tammy if she has anything. I really wish Mr. Stoner would not resign. He's just starting to figure out what's going on up here. But do wish him well. He was, while, as he mentioned, we did not always agree on issues, and but he still handled everything very professionally and very above board and had a lot of character, and I wish him well. He's been here in Smyrna just about as long as I have, but we wish you well. We look forward to working with you as a Public Service Commission. Don't raise the rates. Tammy, you got anything?
Just want to reemphasize the announcement that Ms. Wilkinson mentioned to you. If you're interested in being a part of our first ever Citizens Academy, I encourage you to please apply. Again, the deadline is March the 13th. Thank you very much.
Scott Andrews. Scott Cochran. Yep, this has been a long meeting. Miss Graham, anything? Nothing? This has been a long meeting. Show cause hearing, we have nothing. Citizens input, got 4 people that have signed up. Pat Burns, not sure what her address is, but I got her email address here. DACA, is that what your topic is? DACA. Sorry you've had to wait for one of those sort of crazy nights.
Okay. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Pat Burns,
For 30 years, Smyrna has been my home, and it's time I speak out. I will no longer remain mute over what I have witnessed for decades as our community slid into the dark side, apparently by using legal practices of intimidation and red zoning, specifically Hispanics. They have been red zoned for decades out of the city of Smyrna. Gone are the many thriving minority businesses that lined Atlanta Road, Windy Hill Road, and South Cobb Drive. It began insidiously by requiring English-only signs, then progressed to parking police cars at the El Value store on South Cobb Drive. Apparently, there was a tipping point when too many people who looked like me felt the city was being overrun by Hispanics. And City Hall responded by carefully placing a "You are not welcome" mat in specific neighborhoods. Today, a bright, bright light has been switched on with the new vision plan. Its statements are illuminating and progressive. Today, I paraphrase the vision statement. Smyrna will emerge as a regional destination known for its diversity of distinct and welcoming neighborhoods. Today, if Smyrna leadership really believes in the vision plan with every intention to implement it, I ask you, our city council, to publish a statement supporting our DACA recipients, Smyrna's DACA recipients. Yesterday, we educated these same young immigrant children, be they from Asia, Africa, Europe, Central or South America. Our children played together on Smyrna League sports, the baseball teams, the soccer teams, the basketball teams. Together, our teenagers strengthened Campbell High School teams while we cheered them on. We heard them sing in our choirs. We experienced pride when they participated in ROTC carrying our flag. We heard them as they recited the Pledge of Allegiance. Today, our DACA recipients are nurses, our soldiers, business owners, teachers, and homeowners. Today, they are taxpayers and church members. They are our neighbors. So today, using Smyrna's vision plan as a stepping stone to greatness, I ask you to create and sign a strong statement from the city of Smyrna that we stand with these young men and women for their future and for our future. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Alec Backery, 3459 Shawnee Trail, comments?
Currently, we have 35,872 registered voters in Smyrna, a big increase from the last election that we had. Of that, 5,560 registered voters are in Ward 3. In last November's election in Ward 3, 1,188 people voted. That was a 21.4% turnout. Pathetic. The runoff in Ward 3 was 957, 17% turnout. Again, pathetic. When you think that 80% of Smyrna voted in the national election last year, that should be reversed. That's an interesting stat that I was shocked at. There should be more than this average 20% that we've had in the last 4 elections in Smyrna. We need to get the people to get interested in the city politics, and we need more city council meetings. Perfect example is Windy Hill. With 42 million there, I've talked to many people. They have no clue what's going to go on there. Remember in the 90s, we had the park referendum for 23 million. Yet this one's 42 million, and we need to have a referendum or a city town hall meeting at least to answer questions. The people deserve to have questions answered on how their money's being spent. Another one is term limits. I feel, again, Marietta did it. Smyrna should take a page from them. You have to get the people encouraged to want to express their opinions, to take an interest. Otherwise, we have apathy. And I hate to see the next election in Smyrna only 20% again. I feel bad for the candidates with these low turnouts. So I'm asking again for a city town hall meeting or a referendum on Windy Hill. 42 million is a lot of money, and people deserve to get their questions answered. And I hope this council takes it into consideration. I did, again, a survey of 605 people in Smyrna, and only 18, I asked the question, do you know what your name of your council person is? 18 answered that they knew out of 605. There's a tremendous disconnect, and with the next election less than 2 years away, we need to bridge the communications gap with the constituents and voters in Smyrna. You have to remember the voters are the judge and jury when it comes to politics. Thank you.
Mike Lang. Well, I can't read your writing. L.A., I see L.A. D something.
Why?
How about this? 1587 Sophia Lane, Smyrna.
You got that right.
And it's North Cooper Lake Park.
That's correct.
Good.
The good news is that I'm not going to chew on anybody's ears tonight. And I promise our ward counselor, Councilor Welsh, that I won't hit you up for any money. Not yet, anyway. I'm here. I am the president of the HOA at Cooper Lake Place, which is a new subdivision right off of North Cooper Lake Road. I'm here on the behalf of the residents of North Cooper Lake Place, or Cooper Lake Place, and Park Place, Westbrook Park, and I'm probably pretty sure a lot of the other residents in the area, to give thanks and appreciation to our representative, Mr. Welsh, and to the City Council, and to the City of Smyrna for their approval and their involvement in the installation of the kids' playground at North Cooper Lake Park. So my timing was kind of good tonight, okay? And trust me, we didn't talk about that. I can tell you with certainty that that park has had a major impact. The parents love it. The grandparents who provide free Uber service to all the kids in the neighborhood love it. And most of all, the kids love the new park. It's been a great enhancement to the neighborhood. I think there's other plans for that park, and I look forward to working with people on that one also. But I wanted to take this opportunity tonight, even though I had to wait all night long, to thank the members of the council for your participation again. Thanks.
Thank you. Kyle, all right, here's where you spell it. K-Z-R-K-M-A-N. Is he here? 941 Woodland Trail, traffic. All right, he's not here. That is the last person that signed up on the citizens. Come on. Tell us who you are. You can be Kyle. Okay. You tell us who you are and where you live at, and then make any comments that you'd like to. I'm sorry it's taken so long. We had a lot of discussion tonight, so sorry.
That's quite all right. My name is Julie Sims, and I live at 923 Turner Drive. So I am standing in for Kyle, who lives on the street behind me, and I am speaking about the traffic calming issue, which I am by and large for everything that was in that PDF. My sole point of concern was the vagueness of the funding clause, which gave no information about how the determinations are made about when you're going to charge residents for things, which, you know, my feeling is that these are government functions and things that our taxes should be paying for. If I need speed bumps on my street and the study is performed according to all these policies that says we need speed bumps, then why should the residents be asked to pay for them? It seems that there's some lack of clarity around that because, you know, I'm getting this kind of feeling that perhaps, oh, that's only if the neighborhood wants to beautify it above and beyond what a normal speed bump might look like or a normal, you know, traffic calming thing, which, you know, that's fine if somebody needs an island. If a study says, oh, an island's going to calm the traffic here, we should put this in, and then the neighborhood comes and says, well, we want our island to look like a park, then yeah, the neighborhood, if they want to pay for that above and beyond what a normal traffic calming device would be, then, you know, I can see that. I feel like the proposal as stated is extremely vague with the potential to penalize residents, as Susan pointed out, in areas which, you know, are lower income, not as well off, don't have, you know, well-organized homeowners associations living off the streets. You know, my husband and I have lived on Turner Drive since 1997, so I've seen a lot of changes in the neighborhood, and, you know, we're in the older, non-organized areas, but that funding issue is a point of concern to me because I do want to put together a petition for Belmont Circle. My husband and I walk on it all the time. We see school children riding their bikes, walking from the bus, and every day people fly past me, including one day I was walking carefully in the gutter because there's no sidewalk, and a City of Smyrna police car just whizzed by me doing far in excess of the speed limit. So if even our public servants, whose very job description is to protect us, are endangering our lives by speeding down that road, then, you know, I think there's a real problem there. And you know, it is my goal to put together a petition on that street, but I do have concerns if city council's now coming back and saying, well, we'll give you speed bumps, but your neighborhoods are gonna have to pay for that. I don't know if you're doing that or not, because the
No, we're not.
proposal-
You know, and evidently you've gotten some bad information.
Well, it's
And-
very unclear. All I had to go on was the PDF, which I read and only received 2 hours before this meeting. And it just doesn't say. It says, you know, up to 50%, but it doesn't say how
Right.
those determinations are made.
And normally I do not and will not debate someone that comes up during citizens input. This is an opportunity for you to come up and say what you want to say. But I'll just tell you this, that if you think that we adopted a method tonight to make it harder for the citizens to get a correction to their neighborhood problem, then that's not the case.
I don't necessarily think that. I just don't know. And so my sole point of concern is that if you're going to put something in there that says, you know, the taxpayers may be on the hook for road improvements that, you know, should necessarily be fully the government's share, you need
What I
to
mentioned
define
earlier.
some more
Yeah.
information around that. That you can't just say, well, it might be this, and there's no indication to me how you guys are going to make that determination. So maybe it's not a bad thing and maybe it is a good thing, but it's hard to be for something that could have unintended side effects that are not clear in the document. So that's my only concern on that. Thank you.
If no other business be brought before this body, I declare this meeting adjourned at 9:41.
voting not showing up, but it worked fine.
What did?
The voting part.
We did it.
Controlling it there?
We were.
The way it always works, and
Okay,
so that's part I understand. Why is it not showing up in this little box that he showed me?
He used.
Buttocks.
Yeah. Second time in 3 months, then, wouldn't it?
Right.
Well, I wasn't paying attention over here. So.
But it's not.
All right, I'm out of here.
I guess. Right. Okay.
2 more meetings. You're gonna put them in 2 more.
That's it. Well, we'll miss you. If you go to general meeting, inputs.
Okay. Oh, 4 options under council meeting.
That's what he.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. So there's options missing on that.
Right now.
Right.
For
Right. Got a headache. Crazy people tonight.
Oh no, I mean
Right here, there should be 4 options.
that's what he's saying.
Oh, yeah. Checked all the cables up there, everything's. I would
To
call
get somebody
Chris
out
tomorrow.
here before the, you did,
Yeah.
what he said.
He basically told Jeff to just check the cables, which we did already.
Well, you know, the police department, they should be doing this and that. Sure, give us about 40 more officers, and we'll be able to run laser in every little street in Smyrna. How about that? 24/7. Give us about 40 more police officers. We have barely enough to answer calls right now. Can't do much when you have 6 people on the road and a supervisor. Get calls.